Hello everyone, and welcome to this IFST webinar. There are 6 I's in innovation, organised by IFST's Food Innovation Product and Packaging Special Interest Group. My name is Susan Arkley, and I will be hosting the session today. I'm a food product development and innovation specialist with over 20 years experience in the food industry. During this time, I've developed lots of products and experienced many different innovation processes and models. I now work as a freelance food consultant, helping food companies plan and deliver their development and innovation activities, and as a university lecturer in food development, innovation and manufacture. I'm a fellow of IFST and inaugural chair of the Food Innovation Special Interest Group. The purpose of the Food Innovation SIG is to promote and inspire excellence in food product and packaging innovation. We achieve this by showcasing innovation best practice within the industry and championing an innovation mindset. And we are curating an innovation toolkit for IFST members to use in their innovation activities. You can find out more about the innovation group and our members at our webpage on the IFST website, where you'll also find our introductory video and links to our 2 previous webinars. This is the 3rd webinar in our Innovation Journey series. Our innovation journey started with trends, very often the trigger for many great innovations in the food industry. Our initial launch event, How to Spot Trends and Influence People, we went behind the scenes of trend spotting to better understand what makes a trend and how to use them. Our 2nd webinar, How to Unlock Your Inner Superhero, took us to the next step of the journey, exploring some tools and techniques for idea generation and creative thinking. So, continuing the journey today, we will explore the 6 I's of innovation model. Delving deeper, we will discover what makes the 6 I's model of innovation different from other innovation models, and how its agile and flexible approach of innovating with purpose enables anyone to innovate. This webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to IFST's Webinar Hub. Feel free to make comments and ask questions throughout the webinar using the Q&A function, which should be at the bottom of your screen. This can also be used in the case of any technical difficulties. There will be a Q&A session after the presentation where we will respond to as many of your questions as possible. This session will be chaired by my fellow Food Innovation SIG member, Valia Christodoulou, who is our comms coordinator. Our speaker today is Simon Allison. Simon is a fellow of IFST and a certified practitioner of the 6 I's of innovation model, having been trained by the creator of the model and author of the book, Yes, You Can Innovate, Natalie Turner. Now, as the founder of Food for Innovations, Simon works with food and non-food businesses using the 6 I's model. Simon will be explaining what makes the 6 I's model of innovation so different, effective and successful, bringing to life how it enables diverse teams to achieve the triple bottom line or people, planet, profit, purpose-led innovations in literally any industry or context. You can find out more information about Simon, Valia and myself in the biographies on the link to this webinar on the IFST events page. We are also delighted that the 6 I's of innovation model creator, Natalie Turner, has generously donated a signed copy of her book, Yes, You Can Innovate, which one lucky attendee will receive through a prize draw at the end of the webinar. More details about that later. So with that, I will hand over to you, Simon.
Well, thank you, Susan, for the very generous introduction, and also Valia and Diane, who are helping behind the scenes make sure this all goes like clockwork. So I'm here to talk to you about innovation and explain the model of the 6 I's. And what I'm hoping by the end of the session is that you will believe there are 6 I's in innovation after all. Forgive me, I'm going to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about myself, but I will also talk about Natalie and her background. And then, of course, because this is an innovation webinar, we're going to talk about ideas. I want to talk about purpose, then more about the 6 I's of innovation model, And then the profiler. This is where some of the really kind of juicy stuff comes out. And I'm going to save some time for Q&A, because whilst I tend to write presentations that answer questions on the next slide, there will be a few that come up, and we want to be able to answer as many of those as possible at the end of the session. So do drop them into the Q&A as suggested by Susan. Before we begin though, I would like to know who's in the room today. So Diane, could you put up our poll for us, please? So what I'd like to know is where you work, where you reside. Are you in the food and drink sector? Are you in NPD or innovation services? Please tick or mark a box that most is relevant to you, and let's find out where you're from. Just a few more seconds, I think. And interesting. So we have some food and drink manufacturers, retailers, but also some service providers here. So a good 19 people representing that industry, and 3 from the non-food industry. So welcome. I'm very glad you're here, and I will be sharing examples that are relevant to everyone, I hope. Thank you, Diane. Right, let's crack on. So how it began, if I'm honest, is at Bernard Matthews. I don't know how many people will find this the peak of food innovation, but I began my career by making turkey dinosaurs. I was then lucky enough to work for Marks and Spencer, for Innocent Drinks, Sainsbury, Pret a Manger and Waitrose before I moved into the vertical farming industry. I now work for Perfectly Fresh, as well as having my own innovation consultancy, Food for Innovations. The one thing that links all of those experiences is the thread of innovation and new product development. And I'm very pleased to say that I have cemented that knowledge and experience by becoming a certified practitioner in the 6 I's of innovation, which is something I find, whilst I do use for work, actually has relevance in organising my thinking and making sense of things every day. I thought I'd share some things I've learned on my career journey regarding MPD and innovation. It begins with, you don't need to name the innovation or give it a type or a classification. In fact, I've been involved in the wasting of a lot of time in doing that. What you really need to do is crack on, because by the time you realize you need to do more innovation, everyone else probably is, and you're running late. So build a pipeline of ideas and concepts and get on with it. Work on minimum credible or minimum viable products. So this could be a web platform, it could be a service, it could be a product. Get feedback, beta test it, put it in just a few shops, then optimize in flight. If you wait until you're perfect, you won't be perfect, and everyone else will beat you to it. Now, when it comes to making improvements, isolated teams can't do that. I mean, hopefully everyone on the call has experienced in some way, shape or form the fact that you need other people in innovation to get things done. And so make sure that you're networked, make sure you're integrated, make sure you communicate. And finally, and this is one of those kind of red flag moments for the presentation, no one of us is smarter than all of us. And actually, what I love about the model of the 6 I's is it encourages us to look out for new people, new ways of thinking, diversity of thought, and bring them into our projects. And hopefully you'll see the importance of that later. So here's Natalie Turner. Natalie worked in government, industry, and the charity sector, and for over 20 years in innovation. She is very proficient in all kinds of models. By the way, I'm not going to talk about other models today, but couldn't find one that talked to her to purpose. You know, why are we doing what we're doing? So this led her to come up with her own model, the 6 I's, and to write the book, Yes, You Can Innovate. And that comma is deliberate. What she's saying is everybody can, and hopefully you'll see why in a few slides' time. Innovation can only really come about when there are ideas to develop. So I'm going to offer you a definition so that you don't have to have one. Innovation is about creating value out of ideas that are new to you. So that value could be commercial, it could be competitive, it could be social or environmental, it could be personal. You could just need to change something that you're doing. You don't always have to be first either. Think about Apple. They digitized music, they created a digital music industry, they created the iPhone touchscreen technology. Samsung phones, I'm told, actually work a lot better and have better functions. So it just goes to show that being second can still have value. So if ideas are the what, the products, the services, the experience, the business model that you're seeking to develop, then the how is very definitely the way you go about doing that, the application of skills, the mindsets, the know-how and experience that you have, and definitely your organizational culture. But that won't be enough to land something of lasting value. And we've all launched products and services that haven't really gone the distance. And I would suggest that this is the reason why. Now, Simon Sinek asks us to start with why, and he talks about the golden circle. And when why is at the center of what we do, the how and the what becomes much more aligned. We have clarity. People follow us. It's a North Star, a guiding light. And so I'm going to dwell a little bit more on purpose. So purpose, as human beings, we need to know why we're here. We need to know the order of things. We need to know that there's something behind everything that we do. Simon Sinek, as I've already mentioned, says start with why. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? It's the reason why company mission statements exist, actually. However easily they are ignored afterwards. Companies come up with this because it's about organizing everyone around a common purpose. Bernice McCarthy, who is the creator of the format teaching tool, always starts with why before moving into what and how. I'll give you another example. This is an often shared parable in leadership speeches, but it's about a time when JFK was visiting Cape Canaveral to witness the effort of NASA to launch into space. He's been into mission control, he's seen the engineers, you know, he's a bit mind blown about all of the technology, to be honest, but he's had a good day. And he's walking on the way out and he sees a janitor sweeping the floor, and he goes over to him in his usual charismatic way and says, "Excuse me, sir, may I ask you what you do here?" And the janitor turns to look at him and he says, "Well, Mr. President, I'm here for the same reason as everybody else, to put a man on the moon." So purpose can be really powerful and really motivational. It's also at the very center of what Natalie and others talk about, this triple bottom line, this triple P of people, planet, and performance or profit. So when we're thinking about innovations in the current context of climate change, perhaps, we're thinking about coming up with a circular way of delivering something, or more sustainability, less waste, conservation of resources. Is easy to see then, isn't it, that those would meet the people, planet, performance benefits that purpose-led triple bottom line innovation can have. But you didn't just come here today to hear about purpose, you wanted to know about the 6 I's of innovation, so I'll explain that now. So this model is deliberately circular, and I'm going to layer on why that is important and why that's useful in just a moment. But let me take you through the model structure itself. So first of all, it's purpose-centered. The next thing is it's oriented around people and their behavior. There's some design thinking in there. There's some organizational design thinking in there as well. And it has 6 distinct stages, these I's, represented in contrasting colors. And later I'll show you some symbols and explain mindsets as well. And the reason for this is that we all have different learning styles. So some of us are visual learners. Some of us will need to hear words that activate and engage us, and some need to feel what's going on before they can connect. And the 6 I's of innovation model has all of that, so everyone can engage. Now, it's not just something you use in workshops, it's not just something you use in its engagement tool. You can also use it as an innovation management tool and reporting tool. So you can talk to your senior team about how many projects are in Identify, in Ignite, how many have successfully been implemented, and so on. And the 2 triangles, they're not just decoration, they are there to remind us that at each of these I's, there will be something of cultural significance going on. It's all about people after all, but process as well. Now, those of you who are process junkies or like a good flow chart, I'm afraid there are none coming up. Those of you who don't like that, yay! But process will be important. And what's nice about the 6 I's of innovation is it can lay on top of the processes that you already have to enhance them rather than replace them. And there's really nothing chunky and complex that I can unpack and share for you today anyway. So how does this work? What's this circular business about? So what I want for you to think of is maybe a tablecloth with the I's represented on it and a glass of water perhaps that can move around the tablecloth and represent your idea. Have to have a sip. In the same metaphor, you go where the idea needs to go. Now, those of us who've worked in the food industry may have started looking for new opportunities, Identify, or been in long ideation sessions with hopefully lots of sweets and treats to keep us going, so in Ignite. But we also, if we're honest, actually start with things that already exist in Improve and try and make them better. Perhaps the competition are catching up, or you knew when you beta tested and launched that you wanted to go back and fix something, and now's your chance. So the fact that this is circular means we can go anywhere. And to further emphasize the point, and forgive me if there are veterans of the stage gate process who are somewhat more devotees than I am. If this were a stage gate linear process, we would start, we would write our purpose statement, we would get clear on that, make it motivating, and then we would go through each stage, and as we completed each stage we would seek permission to move forward from whomever our gatekeepers were, and that would be fine, and the model will work that way. But what I would like for you to think of is that actually you can move anywhere you need to go. If you have an idea that needs to be improved, you can check against purpose to see if it will work, and then move into investigate to test it and model it, and then come back out again. Let me show you what I mean. So you start as before, you do your Identify session, your ideation, you check against purpose, and you think, no, I need to improve that, I need to grow the idea, I need to make it more impactful, and you check against purpose. As a result of that, actually, you've got something you want to test and investigate, and something you want to show your investor, your pitch, your, I think we should launch this. You get some feedback, it needs to improve. So you go into there, you come back out, you test it, you take it to your investor, and then you go into your cycle of implementation and improvement as well before finishing the project. Now, I know that column on the right-hand side is a little longer than twice as long as the one on the left, but some of these are just conversations. And if we remember really the last time we went through a stage gate process, there's a lot of spare time baked in there. All of this stuff can actually be done in a very agile, very flexible and lean way, conversationally. So it needn't take any longer. In fact, in my experience, it's much shorter. Now, in order to fully understand the power of the model, I need to take you through the different I's themselves. So I'm going to do that now. So first of all, I'm going to start with the identifier. That's the one at the top. I needn't start there, but I am. Now, these people are great at visualizing the future. They make sense of trends and patterns, and they're very future and very outward oriented. From a leadership perspective, they're good at providing strategic focus. They like to pioneer. From a cultural perspective, they're good at encouraging other people to seek out new areas of opportunity. They have a mindset of curiosity, and Their symbol is about looking outward. There's a lot of movement here, a lot of energy. And as I said before, they've got a compelling desire to learn or experience something new. And this is going to create this kind of opportunity window for Ignite. Now, those with the Igniter profile are good at having lots of new ideas. You know these people. They're always challenging their own way of thinking. Sometimes when they're talking to you about their idea, they make connections between seemingly disparate facts or disconnected ideas, and they don't really always stop either within the ideation session. They can keep going and going. They've got a lot of energy. This color red is symbolic of that. Their role in innovation is to provide novelty and freshness. This new idea is generally where a lot of new for everyone value can come from. So from a leadership perspective, they're good at motivating others to share ideas. And from a cultural perspective, they're good at creating a culture where everyone feels free to contribute. Their symbol is moving from side to side. So anybody in the audience today who is more kinesthetic can probably even replicate that feeling for themselves. And they have an orientation and an attitude that desires to imagine new possibilities. They are very, very different types of people to investigators. So the first thing that you will probably notice is this is a much cooler color. There's a lot more quiet activity going on. There's a lot more thought and process and organization, systematic kind of methodical work going on here. The mindset is one of critical thinking. And I want to be very clear with you, not we've tried this before and it didn't work. I've heard that many times, but I have a set of criteria after which I will know whether or not this idea will fly or may require improvement. So it's the method and the systematic checking of an idea and making sure it's useful. Culturally, they're great at encouraging a culture where exploration and questioning is valued. They encourage investigation by prototyping, by making models or simple test items, testing those, validating with end users or stakeholders. So you may often hear about apps being beta tested or online banking systems being piloted with a small number of customers. This is why, this is what's going on. And with the critical movement, it's idea to criterion, but very much more ordered than the other symbols, I hope you can see. So we're about halfway around the model now. We've done a lot of new ideas and testing of those. We're now going to go into the commitment side of things and begin with the investor profile. So the investor profile is characterized by the color green. That's one of renewal. In some countries, of course, that would be the color of money and investment. And their role in innovation is as fundamental as the others and as different as the others. They are providing pragmatic decision-making, often having the courage to take a risk under stressful conditions. From a leadership perspective, that's really important. And from a cultural perspective, these individuals will also be encouraging and communicating exactly what will be necessary for people to get their idea approved. So they will say what the business case is required to be, or what I'm looking for as an investor is the following, which enables people to do what they need to do. Now, the symbol here is beginning to come in on itself, so that the time for expansive thinking is over and now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. Courage is spoken about a lot in leadership circles, I know, but this is real. And those of you in the room who find yourself having to make decisions about which project to run, if this were an open forum face-to-face, I'm sure we'll be having a conversation now about what that's like, that pressure to make the right choices and to spend the money on the right bit. These individuals, or this person, has an attitude that spurs others on to act even when things are uncomfortable and awkward. And that's going to be important because the next people are the unsung heroes of the innovation process. Now, many implementers will not even really recognize that they're playing a full part in the innovation process, because that is often, you know, rewarded with you know, here's all the creativity, here are all the new ideas. Well, actually, you can have as many of those as you like. If you don't implement something tangible, you don't get the value. Therefore, actually, you haven't created anything from your innovation. So their management and commitment and focus and discipline and getting everyone else, these are your sort of part HR manager, part generals on the battlefield. They're the ones that are going to keep everybody going over those pitfalls, those man traps, those bumps in the road, in order to deliver what they need to deliver. So again, we've got more energy and movement, but we're still facing inwards. We're coming together. So it's about generating value from the idea, and it's about staying committed despite challenges. They are the workhorses of the innovation process, and they deserve a round of applause. The last I in the model is the improver. Now, their role in innovation is about providing fresh perspective, and they generally have the ability to optimize and learn from previous lessons. They have a mindset of cleverness, and they add enormous value in every organization. From a leadership perspective, they're great at capturing learning so that other people can benefit. And from a cultural perspective, they're good at creating a culture where people can learn from, wait for it, failure. I wonder how many people on the call today might have had a little flinch or a little shrug. Nobody really likes to talk about failure, because everyone's got a reference experience which makes them uncomfortable. But here at Food for Innovations, we prefer to think of it as the first attempt in learning. And actually, if you can create a culture where there are conversations about things that have gone less well or outright dropped off the page, then actually you can create an environment where people feel able to talk about what they've learned and not make the same thing happen again. So it's all about improving and extending an idea into new areas of opportunity. So they're mentally bright and sharp, and jolly good eggs. Now, I'm going to attempt something else for the first time. I've got a short clip. If it doesn't work, I've tagged where you can find it above, but let's give it a go, because what I want to do is kind of explain the improver to you in a bit more detail by cheating with this video clip. So let's see how we go. Right, it worked. That's a relief. Diane, would you be kind enough and pull up the second poll? Here I would like for you to have a guess and see where you might show up in the 6 I's of innovation model. So just have a go, mark on the poll where you think you might hang out, and let's see who's in the room. Wow, okay. So what's great is we've got representation of all of the I's in the room, a good number of investigators, some implementers, yay implementers, and some improvers as well. So hopefully you found something that resonates in all of this. And what I would like to do now is explain the profiler as a way of being sure of that. So I shall move on now. Okay, so the profiler is a very simple way to know yourself. This is going to be feedback by you given to you. Now, I know a lot of you will have done profilers in the past, maybe insights discovery, other ones as well. This isn't a personality test. This is a measure of your own confidence in innovation, done in private, and then shared with you in private. So this is you telling you how confident you are over here. In order to make this clear, I'm going to share my profile first. So hopefully, based on what I've shared already and some of your own thinking about yourselves, you would be able to tell me what my strengths are on this chart. So I'm known as an identifier investor. They're my highest colors. I am not known for my improvement, and although I do have the ability to learn from mistakes, don't like to spend a lot of time there. I think what characterizes me as an innovator is I can see an opportunity. I'm usually very willing to commit to it. And I think the courage that I have to take a risk is often born out of the fact that I usually know what's going to be involved afterwards because of my implement. But that improve could get in the way, couldn't it? If I was innovating alone, that might become problematic. I might even make the same mistake a few times. Let's look at this in the context of everyone's profile at Food for Innovations. Now, I'm not going to explain who's who. That's not important. It's also not terribly important who's got the highest score and what have you. But if you look at mine in the bottom left-hand corner, what you can see is I would benefit hugely on a conversation with any other member of the team when it comes to improving an idea that I might have, or making a change to a process and making it better. I can help just about every other member of the team on implement, and there are at least 2 other members of the team who could help me come up with lots of new ideas. So I hope you can start to see that when you know yourself and when you know other people, and you have that information, you have the understanding that diversity is actually good. There are no ideal teams, there are no ideal profiles, there are just what the idea needs at the time. And what we can do is we can orientate people and teams around innovation projects if we need to. Now I'm going to take another look. This time, please don't try and read any of the writing, it's far too small. Just look overall at the red, amber, green. This is what's called a 6 I's heat map. So this is a much larger data set of a team. And what we're looking for here is a sea of dark green, and we don't have it. That's okay, that's normal. All of the confidences in the 6 I's of innovation can be learned and improved and bettered, just like we might go to the gym to become more fit. We might go back to learning French because we've forgotten everything we learned at school and we're going on this grand tour of France when we retire. We can learn. Our neurons are plastic and we can adapt. So this is just a roadmap as to where we might focus. So if we're trying to get everything green, so equally balanced supply versus the level of confidence we have, the level of importance we place on it, we might choose to focus on improve. If we did, looking down innovation leadership and culture and open innovation, if we focused on creating a culture where people can learn from failure, we might actually start to see that people are willing to capture learning. That would address leadership, and that they might actually begin to seek opportunities to improve on an idea with other people. So that would improve open innovation and collaboration as well. If we just look along the bottom at open innovation and collaboration, this is a classic profile for food retailers and branded businesses where they need to keep their secret because they're in a highly competitive environment. Now, I would ask for you to think about some non-food examples, some spin-out services, for example, how BT and EE have a broadband provision relationship where they could be seen to be actually openly competing on the market for customers, but they've come together to create a product that's quite different. So if we were able to bust some myths and get good at open innovation and collaboration, we would help this organization without doubt deal with all of that across every single eye. They would become better at identifying opportunities, creating new ideas, testing those ideas with customers and end users and so on. So it can be a very, very powerful tool, very, very informative. Now, I did talk about flexing muscles and improving and neuroplasticity. Let me offer you how I manage that for myself. So here's a short book list and podcast list. Those that I've highlighted in yellow, I think are the major gifts. I wholeheartedly recommend Yes, You Can Innovate by Natalie Turner. I regularly refer to it. Malcolm Gladwell's work as an economist and social commentator is really quite brilliant. I recommend Amy Wilkinson and Lucy Wager's podcast, Oh for Food's Sake. If you want real boots on the ground, investor, implementer and improver insights from two NPD and innovation specialists, that can't be beaten. And because I like a laugh and you can't make it all about work, Tig Notaro's True Story podcast is well worth a listen. And here's another flag. I promised that there would be a few, and hopefully you've picked up on those. If you do one other thing, you should go to YouTube. You should look for Elizabeth Gilbert speaking about going on a creative journey where fear is invited. I think she did it for Salesforce. I didn't trust the weather in the Highlands to allow me to play the clip. It's about 3.5 minutes long. But I watch that every time I need reminding that fear is a part of the process and should never get in the way. I invite you to do the same. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening, for signing up, and for participating in the polls. If there's anything we don't get to today in the Q&A, or there's something you'd like to know more about, then email me, find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, all of that good stuff. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Simon. My goodness, well, what can I say? You actually had me when you mentioned, when you said that the 6 I's model is a model that can be applied to any process, and it does enhance it because, you know, like Susan, like yourself, I've been doing, you know, new product development for many years, and you're always kind of looking for the perfect model, and you know, you often change, you go from stage and gate to something else, and you just think, not another model. I don't want to scrap what I've got to go and introduce. Oh my goodness.
I hear you for sure.
So when you say, you know, you take this and you make what you've got so much more powerful, I was there, I was sold. And also I thought, you know, you also mentioned that it's different learning styles and presumably different communicating styles. So you're actually playing to people's strengths, you know.
And that's fundamental, because we often don't include people in innovation, perhaps if they're in the finance department or the people team, but actually they've got a mindset and a perspective and a way of thinking that can enrich an idea. So you're absolutely right to pick up on that point. It's so powerful.
Yes, so much. So, and one last little thank you from me, because thank you for reminding me of the Cape Canaveral story, because that is, it's so powerful, and it shows, you know, the I'll repeat the word, the power of a single purpose and that everyone is absolutely crucial, and they play the role in delivering innovation. So we've got questions, we've got quite a few questions, but that's why I asked to be the one chairing that bit, so I can ask the first one.
Okay.
And as Susan mentioned, at the Special Innovation Group, the special interest group, the Food Innovation, we're currently working on curating an innovation toolkit for all of us, all members. I would like you to give us a little gift, which is, what would you put in our innovation toolkit?
Well, I mean, I would love for the 6 I's of innovation to be in there. But if we were just going to focus on the golden nuggets, I would say I would make sure that there was testing and investigation, so tools around doing that cheaply and quickly, and I would also make sure that there was something around improvement in there. And there's a lovely model called Scamper, which encourages us to modify, remove, and that's a belter, actually. And it's a bit like Coco Chanel, who encourages you to take something off before you leave the house. Scamper encourages you to be impartial and effective with ideas. So probably those two.
Yeah, no, Scamper, I agree. So right, conscious of time as well. So let's go to our first question. How can we go about promoting and creating an investigator and an igniter mindset in our team? So if, for example, these are the 2 elements, let's say they're missing. How do we create that and promote it?
Okay, so in the first instance, if we take Ignite, so this fiery energy here, we need to create an environment where that can be expressed. So it's no great wonder that we tend to go on a safari and look at products out in the marketplace, or book somewhere different to our office and go and ideate there. I would encourage facilitation. I would pick somebody that you admire that is an influential person, either in your business or outside, to help that conversation along, and to reward ideas and to build on ideas. I don't believe in that adage, there are no daft ideas. There are just ideas. You don't need to classify them at all. And often it'll be somebody in the last 10 minutes who will see how it all comes together. So save some time. I would encourage igniters and investigators to have their own space and their own time in the process. You can probably deduce that the high energy excitement, I love my idea, is not compatible with the, but your idea doesn't meet the criteria we set in the purpose. It needs improvement. That could be very bruising and very counter to what you're trying to achieve. So give everybody some space, designate that we are now in the assessment phase. And if we need more ideas, we will come back to you or back to this process. That will go a long way to making it better. And again, just follow the same process, a checklist or a story, or just be very, very oriented. And even people who aren't used to investigating will become more comfortable with that.
I suppose it's practice, isn't it? Even if it's, yes.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It absolutely.
Yeah. Another question we've got. So have you found people can sit as a champion in more than one eyes?
Yes, absolutely. So I have, as I touched on, a double profile. So I'm an identifier investor. That means I can support the top half and the bottom half of the process, if that makes sense to you. Absolutely. And I would encourage you to explore and identify those people and give them a name and a badge and a role in being champions within your innovation process, because it'll only make it easier.
Yes, yeah, and so you can imagine people wearing little badges. Sorry, I think I'm going into the red now.
I was going to say, I've always had a thought that you might be an igniter. You're
I tell
even
you
wearing
what, though,
red. You're
I'll
even wearing red.
yeah, you know, yes, thank you very much, and it wasn't deliberate, but I am missing a bit of yellow, so maybe you have a word with Natalie. I'll just put it out there.
Okay.
Another question we've got is how can the 6I model help identify innovation partners? That's another interesting one.
That's a very interesting
Yep.
one. So I think this would then be where you double down on the purpose of your innovation. So I think if you're clear about why you are innovating and the journey that you're going on to, that structures how you set about working through identify. If we remember that the identify is deliberately oriented to the outside, it's the blue of blue sky thinking. You are curious about what's different, which is typically outside of your organization. I think it's at that point that some of those might be called out and named. Then there are other elements to the model. So the open innovation and collaboration feature of each eye is another call to action. That means any one of us with any one of these profiles can do that, but your investor has a big role to play in saying, I am going to sign this off, but the very first thing I would like you to do is go and talk to this team because I believe they know how to do that. Or in my network, I think there's a supplier that can help you with that. So you've also got to remain open, I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think a last question from the audience here. It says, Simon, can you remember your first big attempt at learning? How did you feel? And attempt at learning, let me just say, it's in yes. So, well, if you're not, I can share my attempt at learning.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if we were all in the room together right now. Gosh,
how did you feel, and what did you do differently?
Right. Okay. I will talk about a very old product, but to be honest, I keep doing this, so I could use any example over the last 25 years. But I was a young technologist, eager to please. First motivational mistake. I was trying to please somebody I worked with rather than focused on the product. And we launched a very weird vegetable accompaniment, which was potato wedges in an orange sauce that we char grilled, and then you just kind of prick dinged it at home. Now, we worked on this and it kind of got waved through a stage gate process because it met the criteria set in the stage gate process, and we launched it. And within days, we had complaints of hard potatoes. We had complaints of ashy notes. You know, if somebody likes a barbecue, is it lighter fuel rather than letting the coals go? And then, so basically, I launched something that tasted of raw potato rolled in cigarette ash and marmalade. And so my takeout from that is serve the most important client, which in this case was the person buying the products, and then deal with all of the components of the dish appropriately. And so start by cooking the potatoes. When you cover potatoes with something that's going to burn, don't char grill them. You know, char grill the potato first, then coat them in the sauce, then sell the product. Unfortunately, we didn't move quick enough. And I think it's very, very painful to have to fess up and own something like that when it happens, and explain to people, because of course you're explaining what you've learned, and so it seems very obvious to everybody, and they go, oh, why did you do that? But it's not obvious at the time. My advice to everyone is park the feeling. It's no longer serving you. Look for the facts and share the facts as objectively as possible so others can make use of it.
No, I've got a lot of my learning moments in my little. I've got a little little product development blog. I thought I'll own up to all my learning moments to make sure others don't have the same experience. Oh,
Oh,
do we
good for
have
you.
one more question? Sorry, we've got more
Sure.
here. So let me see the next one. Can you share some examples of companies that use the 6 I's and how their innovation or the products and services are doing? I mean, I don't know if that is possible, or even maybe
Yeah, I mean,
not in food, or
I'll try and give some context. So this is a
yeah,
new model.
yeah,
And I think that's exciting because it presents the UK food industry and others with a chance to get ahead. So it was born in Asia, so it's used by the Singapore government, the Ministry of Defence, 2 of the universities in the city use it. You've got some tech companies using it as well. And then here in the UK, some banks and also Waitrose. It won't surprise many people if I used to work at Waitrose, that Waitrose use the 6 I's. And it's interesting because I worked as an embedded certified practitioner rather than an external service provider. So it meant that it was kind of my role to push it out through the organisation.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it here in terms of questions. I know there's 1 or 2 coming, but you can always contact Simon, and we've got your details. And I will now say thank you again, and hand over to Susan to close the session.
Thank you so much, Valia and Simon, and to everybody for attending the webinar today. So one lucky attendee, will win a signed copy of Natalie Turner's book, Yes, You Can Innovate. A winner will be picked at random from the attendees who have joined the live webinar today. The winner will be emailed straight after the webinar ends. If we didn't get a chance to answer your question live in the webinar, please feel free to email Simon directly, as Valia said. Thank you so much again to Simon and to Valia and to everyone for attending today and for participating in the polls and joining in the webinar. So all that remains for me is to say goodbye and enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Thanks very much.